Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! The brush glided smoothly across the nail, leaving a trail of shimmering midnight blue in its wake. Luis held his breath, focusing intently on keeping his hand steady as he applied the polish with careful precision. The sweet chemical scent filled the air of his small bedroom, mingling with the faint aroma of incense that always lingered. He leaned back to admire his handiwork, a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. The deep, rich color made his olive skin glow like stars twinkling in a night sky. Luis flexed his fingers, watching how the polish caught the light. For a moment, everything felt right in the world. The illusion shattered as his mother's voice carried up the stairs. "Luis! Dinner's ready!" Panic fluttered in his chest. He scrambled to hide the nail polish bottle in his desk drawer, nearly knocking over a cup of paintbrushes in his haste. Luis paused, taking a deep breath to steady himself. It was fine. His parents never paid much attention to his hands anyway. "Coming, Mama!" he called back, giving his nails one last admiring glance before heading downstairs. The kitchen was warm and fragrant with the smell of his mother's cooking. Steam rose from a pot of arroz con pollo on the stove, making Luis's stomach rumble. His father sat at the head of the table, already helping himself to a heaping plateful. "There you are," his mother said, ladling rice onto a plate for Luis. "I was starting to think you'd fallen asleep up there." Luis slid into his usual chair, careful to keep his hands below the table.
"Sorry, I was just working on some art stuff."
His father grunted around a mouthful of chicken.
"Art again. You spend too much time with that nonsense. You should be focusing on your studies."
A familiar ache bloomed in Luis's chest. He stared down at his plate, pushing the food around with his fork.
"I do focus on my studies,"
he mumbled.
"What was that?"
his father asked sharply.
"Nothing,"
Luis said quickly.
"The food smells great, Mama."
His mother beamed, oblivious to the tension.
"I'm glad you like it, mijo. I added extra cilantro this time."
The conversation drifted to other topics. His father's work, his mother's book club, the leaky faucet that needed fixing. Luis ate mechanically, barely tasting the food. His mind was elsewhere, already dreading the next morning. After dinner, he retreated to his room, closing the door with a soft click. Luis sank onto his bed, finally allowing himself to look at his nails again. The polish gleamed in the warm light of his bedside lamp. Beautiful. Dangerous. He knew he should take it off before school tomorrow. It would be safer that way. No one would notice. No one would say anything. But something in him rebelled at the thought. Why should he have to hide this small piece of himself? Luis fell back onto his pillow with a frustrated sigh. Sleep was a long time coming that night. Morning arrived far too quickly. Luis dragged himself through his usual routine, showering and dressing on autopilot. He made it all the way to the front door before his mother's voice stopped him cold.
"Luis, what's on your nails?"
He froze, one hand on the doorknob. Slowly, Luis turned to face her. His mother's brow was furrowed in confusion as she stared at his hands.
It's nail polish,"
he said, hating how small his voice sounded. For a long moment, she didn't say anything. Then she shook her head, a bemused smile on her face. "Boys," she muttered.
"Always trying out strange things. Just make sure you take it off before your father sees, okay?"
Relief and disappointment warred in Luis's chest. He nodded mutely and slipped out the door before she could say anything else. The walk to school felt like marching to his own execution. With each step, Luis's anxiety grew. He tucked his hands into his pockets, hunching his shoulders against the chilly morning air. As he approached the school gates, a familiar voice called out, "Hey, Luis! Wait up!" He turned to see his best friend, Mara, jogging to catch up. Her curly hair bounced with each step, held back by a brightly patterned headband.
"Hey,"
Luis said, managing a small smile. Mara fell into step beside him, chattering about the upcoming chemistry test. Luis nodded along, only half listening. They were nearly at the school doors when Mara broke off mid-sentence. "Whoa, are those your nails?" she asked, grabbing his hand to get a better look. "That color is gorgeous." Luis felt his face heat up. "Oh, yeah, I just wanted to try something different." Mara grinned. "It looks amazing on you. You've got to let me borrow that shade sometime." For a moment, the knot of anxiety in Luis's chest loosened. Maybe this wouldn't be so bad after all. That hope was short-lived. As they entered the crowded hallway, Luis could feel eyes on him. Whispers and snickers followed in his wake. He hunched his shoulders, trying to make himself as small as possible.
"Yo, check it out!"
A voice called out.
"Lopez is wearing nail polish!"
Luis recognized the speaker, Jason, captain of the basketball team and self-appointed king of their grade. He was surrounded by his usual group of hangers-on, all of them staring at Luis with identical sneers.
"What's the matter, Lopez?"
Jason taunted.
"Couldn't decide what to wear, so you raided your sister's makeup bag?"
Laughter erupted around them. Luis felt his face burning, shame and anger warring for dominance. "Leave him alone!" Mara snapped, stepping between Luis and Jason. "At least he has the confidence to express himself, unlike some people who just follow the crowd." Jason's eyes narrowed.
"Watch it, Torres. You don't want to end up a freak like your little boyfriend here."
"He's not my boyfriend," Mara shot back. "And he's not a freak. You're just too insecure to handle anyone who's different." The warning bell rang, cutting off whatever retort Jason was about to make. He settled for shoving past Luis, knocking him into the lockers.
"See you around, princess,"
he sneered. Luis leaned against the cool metal, trying to steady his breathing. Mara touched his arm gently. "You okay?" He nodded, not trusting himself to speak. "Don't let those jerks get to you," Mara said fiercely. "They're just scared of anyone who doesn't fit into their narrow little box of what's normal." Luis managed a weak smile.
"Thanks, Mara."
She squeezed his hand. "Anytime. That's what friends are for, right? Come on, we're going to be late for class." The rest of the morning passed in a blur of whispers and stares. Luis kept his hands tucked under his desk as much as possible, but word had already spread. By lunchtime, it seemed like the entire school knew about his nail polish. He sat alone at the far end of the cafeteria, picking listlessly at his food. Mara had a student council meeting, leaving Luis to face the sea of curious and judgmental faces on his own. A shadow fell across his table. Luis looked up to see a group of older students looming over him. He recognized a few of them from the soccer team.
"Hey there, pretty boy,"
one of them drawled.
"Those are some nice nails you've got. Do they match your panties too?"
Luis felt his throat close up. He wanted to say something, to stand up for himself, but fear kept him rooted to the spot. Another boy reached out, grabbing Luis's wrist and yanking his hand up for inspection.
"Oh, look at that. Did your mommy paint them for you?" "Let go,"
Luis managed to choke out. The boy's grip tightened painfully.
"Or what? You gonna cry to the teacher? Go ahead. Run to mommy like the little girl you are."
"What's going on here?" The gruff voice cut through the tension like a knife. Mr. Ramirez, the gym teacher, strode towards them with a thunderous expression. The boys immediately stepped back, their faces transforming into masks of innocence.
"Nothing, sir,"
the ringleader said smoothly.
"We were just admiring Lopez's manicure."
Mr. Ramirez's eyes narrowed.
"Is that right?"
He turned to Luis.
"Everything okay here, son?"
Luis opened his mouth, then closed it again. He wanted to tell the truth, to explain what had really happened, but the thought of the retaliation that would surely follow made the words die in his throat.
"It's fine,"
he mumbled, staring down at the table. Mr. Ramirez didn't look convinced, but he nodded slowly.
"All right then. You boys get on to class now. And Lopez, my office is always open if you need to talk."
As the group shuffled away, Luis caught snippets of their conversation.
"Can you believe that freak? Someone needs to teach him how to be a real man."
Maybe we should help him out with that. Luis's appetite vanished completely. He dumped his mostly untouched lunch in the trash and fled to the sanctuary of the art room. The smell of paint and clay enveloped him as he stepped inside. Luis felt some of the tension leave his shoulders. This was his safe space, the one place in school where he truly felt like himself. Ms. Chen, the art teacher, looked up from her desk as he entered. Her eyes widened slightly at the sight of his nails, but her warm smile never faltered. "Luis, what a lovely surprise! No lunch today?" she asked. He shook his head.
"Not hungry."
Ms. Chen's expression softened with understanding.
"Well, you're always welcome here. Why don't you work on your portfolio piece? I'd love to see how it's coming along."
Grateful for the distraction, Luis settled at his usual easel. He lost himself in the familiar rhythms of mixing colors and applying paint to canvas. For a little while, he could forget about the whispers and the stares. As the final bell rang, signaling the end of the school day, Luis packed up his supplies with a heavy heart. The thought of facing another day like this made his stomach churn. He was nearly at the school gates when a hand grabbed his shoulder, spinning him around. Luis found himself face to face with Jason and two of his friends.
"Where do you think you're going, princess?"
Jason sneered.
"We're not done with you yet."
Luis tried to pull away, but Jason's grip was like iron.
"Let me go,"
he said, hating how his voice shook.
"Or what?"
Jason taunted.
"You gonna hit me with your purse?"
One of the other boys laughed.
"Nah, he'd probably break a nail." "You know what?"
Jason said, a cruel glint in his eye.
"I think it's time we helped Lopez here man up a little. What do you say, boys? Should we give him a makeover?"
Before Luis could react, rough hands seized his arms. He struggled, panic rising in his throat, but it was no use. They were bigger, stronger. "Stop!" he cried out. "Please, just leave me alone!" But his pleas fell on deaf ears. Jason produced a bottle of nail polish remover from his backpack, grinning maliciously.
"Time to wash off all that girly crap," he said. "Hold him still."
Luis squeezed his eyes shut, bracing himself for what was to come. But instead of the harsh chemical smell he expected, he heard a familiar voice ring out.
"Hey! What the hell do you think you're doing?"
Luis's eyes flew open. Mara was storming towards them, righteous fury blazing in her eyes. She planted herself between Luis and his tormentors, hands on her hips.
"Back off, Torres," Jason growled. "This doesn't concern you."
"Like hell it doesn't," Mara shot back. "That's my friend you're messing with. Now let him go before I start screaming loud enough to bring every teacher in this school running." For a moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, the hands gripping Luis's arms released him. He stumbled back, nearly falling before Mara caught him. Jason glared at them both.
"This isn't over.
he spat.
Watch your back, Lopez.
As the group slouched away, Luis sagged against Mara, trembling. She wrapped an arm around his shoulders, her voice gentle.
Are you okay? Did they hurt you?
Luis shook his head, not trusting himself to speak. Tears pricked at the corners of his eyes. Come on, Mara said softly. Let's get out of here. They walked in silence, Mara's arm still around Luis's shoulders. He focused on putting one foot in front of the other, trying to process everything that had happened. When they reached the park a few blocks from school, Mara guided him to a secluded bench beneath a spreading oak tree. They sat, the sounds of children playing on the nearby playground drifting over on the breeze. Do you want to talk about it? Mara asked gently. Luis stared down at his hands, at the polish that had caused so much trouble. I don't know what to say, he whispered. I thought it would be different. I thought maybe people wouldn't care so much. Mara sighed, leaning back against the bench. People suck sometimes, especially in high school. Everyone's so desperate to fit in that they lash out at anyone who's different.
But why?
Luis asked, frustration coloring his voice. It's just nail polish. It doesn't hurt anyone. Why do they care so much? Because they're scared, Mara said simply. Scared of anything that challenges their idea of what's normal. And instead of examining why they feel that way, they take it out on people like you. Luis was quiet for a long moment, mulling over her words.
I don't know if I can do this again tomorrow,
he admitted.
Maybe I should just take it off. Try to blend in.
Mara's hand found his, squeezing gently. You could, she said, and no one would blame you if you did. But Luis, is that really what you want? He looked up, meeting her eyes.
What do you mean?
I mean, the nail polish. It's not just about looking pretty, is it? It's about expressing yourself, being true to who you are. Mara's gaze was steady, understanding. And I think maybe there's more to it than that. Isn't there? Luis felt his breath catch in his throat. He looked away, unable to hold her gaze.
I don't know what you're talking about,
he mumbled. Mara's voice was soft, free of judgment. Luis, we've been friends since we were kids. I know you. And I've seen how you look at some of the girls' clothes in the mall, how you light up when we talk about makeup or hairstyles, the way you carry yourself sometimes, like you're not quite comfortable in your own skin. Tears welled up in Luis's eyes, spilling over before he could stop them. I can't. Hey, Mara said gently, wrapping an arm around his shoulders.
It's okay.
You don't have to have it all figured out right now, and you don't have to tell me anything you're not ready to share. I just want you to know that whatever you're feeling, whatever you're going through, I'm here for you. Always. Luis leaned into her embrace, letting the tears flow freely. All the fear and confusion and pain he'd been holding back came pouring out. Mara held him through it all, murmuring soft words of comfort. When the storm of emotion finally passed, Luis sat up, wiping his eyes.
I'm sorry,
he said, voice hoarse.
I didn't mean to fall apart like that.
Mara smiled, handing him a tissue from her bag. Don't apologize. That's what friends are for, remember? Luis managed a watery smile in return.
Yeah, I remember.
They sat in companionable silence for a while, watching the sun begin to set. Finally, Luis took a deep breath.
Mara?
I think maybe you're right. About there being more to it than just the nail polish. Luis's voice shook slightly, but he pressed on.
I don't know exactly what it means yet, but I know I'm different, and I'm scared.
Mara's arm tightened around him. I know, but you're not alone, okay? We'll figure it out together. Luis nodded, feeling a small spark of hope kindle in his chest.
Together,
he echoed. As they walked home in the fading light, Luis felt simultaneously lighter and heavier than he had in a long time. The weight of his secret had been partially lifted, but the uncertainty of what came next loomed large. One thing was clear, though. He couldn't keep going like this, pretending to be someone he wasn't. The nail polish had been just the beginning. It was time to start exploring who he really was, no matter how scary that might be. The next morning, Luis stood in front of his bedroom mirror, staring at his reflection. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, evidence of another mostly sleepless night. His gaze drifted down to his hands, where chipped remnants of blue polish still clung to his nails. With trembling fingers, he reached for the bottle of nail polish remover on his desk. It would be so easy to wipe away all traces of yesterday's drama, to go back to blending in, to being invisible. But as he unscrewed the cap, Luis hesitated. Mara's words from the day before echoed in his mind. Was this really what he wanted? He set the bottle down, straightening his shoulders. No. He was done hiding. Instead of removing the polish, Luis carefully touched up the chips and added a fresh topcoat. The familiar scent of polish filled the air, but this time it felt less like a guilty secret and more like a declaration. As he descended the stairs, Luis's heart pounded. His mother was in the kitchen, humming as she packed his lunch. Good morning, mijo, she said, glancing up with a smile. Her eyes fell to his hands, and the smile faltered. Luis, we talked about this. You need to take that off before your father sees. Luis took a deep breath.
No, Mama. I don't want to take it off.
His mother's brow furrowed.
Luis, this isn't funny. You know how your father will react. I know,
Luis said, his voice steadier than he felt.
But I can't keep pretending to be someone I'm not. This is part of who I am.
For a long moment, his mother was silent. Then she sighed, setting down the sandwich she'd been wrapping. Oh, mijo, I was afraid of this. Luis felt his stomach drop.
What do you mean?
She crossed the kitchen, taking his hands in hers. Her eyes were sad, but not unkind. I've seen the signs for a while now. The way you look at certain clothes, how uncomfortable you seem in your own skin sometimes. I hoped it was a phase you'd grow out of.
It's not a phase, Mama, Luis said softly. I don't know exactly what it means yet, but I know this is real. It's who I am.
His mother's eyes welled with tears. Oh, my sweet boy. I wish things could be easier for you. You know your father won't understand. Luis nodded, his own eyes stinging.
I know, but I can't keep living a lie. It's killing me, Mama.
She pulled him into a tight hug. We'll figure this out together, okay? I can't promise I'll always understand, but I love you, no matter what. Luis clung to her, overwhelmed by relief and gratitude. I love you too, Mama. When they finally pulled apart, his mother wiped her eyes and managed a watery smile.
Now, you better get going, or you'll be late for school.
And Luis? Be careful, okay?
People can be cruel when they don't understand something.
Luis nodded, shouldering his backpack.
I will. Thanks, Mama.
As he walked to school, Luis felt a strange mix of terror and exhilaration. For the first time in years, he felt like he was taking a step towards being his true self. It was terrifying, yes, but also oddly freeing. Mara was waiting for him at their usual spot near the school gates. Her eyes widened as she took in his freshly painted nails. "Wow," she said. "I didn't think after yesterday." Luis managed a small smile.
"Yeah, well, I decided I'm done hiding."
Mara's face broke into a proud grin. "Good for you. Seriously, Luis, I'm really proud of you." As they entered the school, Luis braced himself for the stares and whispers. They came, just as he'd expected, but somehow they seemed less overwhelming today. Maybe it was Mara's steady presence at his side, or maybe it was the knowledge that he was finally being true to himself. The morning passed in a blur of classes and sidelong glances. Luis kept his head high, meeting the stares with a calm he didn't entirely feel. By lunchtime, he was exhausted from the constant tension, but also oddly energized. As he and Mara made their way to the cafeteria, a familiar voice called out,
"Well, well, look who decided to show his face again."
Luis turned to see Jason and his crew approaching. His heart rate picked up, but he stood his ground. Jason's eyes narrowed as he took in Luis's nails.
"I thought we made ourselves clear yesterday, Lopez. Or do you need another lesson?"
Before Luis could respond, another voice cut through the tension.
"Is there a problem here?"
Mr. Ramirez, the gym teacher, strode up to the group. His stern gaze swept over Jason and his friends before landing on Luis.
"No problem, sir,"
Jason said smoothly.
"We were just talking."
Mr. Ramirez raised an eyebrow.
"Is that right, Lopez? Just talking?"
Luis hesitated, torn between the desire to avoid further conflict and the need to stand up for himself. Finally, he straightened his shoulders and met Mr. Ramirez's eyes.
"Actually, sir, they were threatening me. Again. Because of my nail polish."
The teacher's expression hardened.
"I see. Jason, you and your friends can come with me to the principal's office. Now."
As the group was led away, Luis caught Jason's furious glare. He knew this wasn't over, but for now at least, he'd won a small victory. Mr. Ramirez turned back to Luis.
"Are you all right, son?"
Luis nodded. "Yes, sir. Thank you." The teacher's expression softened slightly.
"You know, Lopez, it takes a lot of courage to be yourself in a world that often wants you to be something else. If you ever need to talk, my door is always open."
As Mr. Ramirez walked away, Luis felt a warmth in his chest. It wasn't much, but knowing there was at least one adult in his corner made the road ahead seem a little less daunting. The rest of the day passed without major incident, though Luis could feel the weight of curious stares following him through the halls. By the time the final bell rang, he was both mentally and emotionally exhausted. As he trudged towards his locker, a hesitant voice called out, Luis?" He turned to see Sarah, a quiet girl from his English class, standing nearby. She twisted a strand of hair nervously around her finger. "I just wanted to say, I think it's really cool that you're wearing nail polish. It looks great on you." Luis blinked, surprised. "Oh, thanks, Sarah." She gave him a shy smile before hurrying off. Luis stood there for a moment, a warm feeling spreading through his chest. It was a small thing, but after everything he'd been through, that tiny bit of support meant the world. As the days turned into weeks, Luis found himself settling into a new normal. The stares and whispers didn't disappear entirely, but they became background noise. He experimented with different colors and designs, each one feeling like a small act of defiance against the expectations that had been placed on him for so long. But as he grew more comfortable expressing this part of himself, Luis found other aspects of his identity bubbling to the surface. The way certain clothes in the girls' section of stores caught his eye. The discomfort he felt when addressed as he or him. The longing he experienced when he saw girls with long, flowing hair or delicate jewelry. It was Mara who finally gave voice to what Luis had been afraid to admit, even to himself. They were sprawled on her bedroom floor, flipping through fashion magazines and painting each other's nails. "Luis," she said hesitantly, "have you ever thought that maybe you're not just a boy who likes nail polish? That maybe there's more to it than that?" Luis's hand stilled, the brush hovering over Mara's pinky nail. "What do you mean?" Mara set down her own brush, turning to face him fully. "I mean, have you ever considered that you might be transgender?" The word hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. Luis felt his heart rate pick up, a mix of fear and something like relief coursing through him. I don't know," he said softly. "How would I even know something like that?" Mara reached out, squeezing his hand gently. "There's no one way to know for sure. But from everything you've told me, the way you've been feeling, it might be worth exploring, you know?" Luis nodded slowly, his mind whirling. "Yeah, maybe you're right." That conversation opened up a floodgate. Over the next few weeks, Luis threw himself into research, devouring every article and forum post he could find about gender identity and expression. The more he read, the more things began to click into place. The discomfort he'd always felt in his own skin. The way he'd gravitated towards traditionally feminine things, even as a young child. The deep, inexplicable sadness he sometimes felt when he looked in the mirror. It was terrifying and exhilarating all at once. For the first time, Luis had words to describe the feelings he'd been struggling with for so long. But with that understanding came a whole new set of challenges. How would he tell his parents, his classmates? What would this mean for his future? As the pressure of these questions mounted, Luis found himself withdrawing. He stopped wearing nail polish to school, started avoiding Mara's calls. It was easier to retreat into himself than to face the enormity of what he was discovering. It all came to a head one afternoon in art class. Ms. Chen had assigned a self-portrait project, encouraging students to explore different aspects of their identity through their art. Luis stared at the blank canvas, paralyzed. How could he possibly create a self-portrait when he wasn't even sure who he was anymore? Ms. Chen must have noticed his distress. She approached his easel, her voice gentle. "Having trouble getting started, Luis?" He nodded mutely, unable to meet her eyes. "You know," she said thoughtfully, "art isn't always about depicting things exactly as they are. Sometimes it's about exploring possibilities, showing the world as you wish it could be." Luis looked up, startled by her words. Ms. Chen smiled kindly. "Why don't you try painting the person you want to be, rather than the person you think you're supposed to be?" As she moved on to check on other students, Luis felt something shift inside him. With trembling hands, he picked up his brush and began to paint. Hours flew by as he lost himself in the work. When he finally stepped back, Luis gasped softly at what he saw. The figure on the canvas was undeniably him, and yet not him. Softer features, longer hair cascading over shoulders, a delicate necklace glinting at the throat. The eyes were his own, but they shone with a confidence and joy he'd never seen in the mirror. "Oh, Luis," Ms. Chen breathed, appearing at his side. "It's beautiful." Luis stared at the painting, tears welling in his eyes. That's me," he whispered. "The real me." Ms. Chen squeezed his shoulder gently. I think you might be right. Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!